your reaction to seeing all this?
I'm terrified. I'm absolutely terrified.
A triple shooting, 2 men dead, another injured, and a community shaken. Good evening, I'm Marivelle Tarouk. Toronto police are asking for the public's help tonight in finding a suspect in a double homicide. 3 men were shot outside an apartment building in the city's Mount Dennis neighborhood. 1 man survived, and as Angelina King tells us, police say the shooting was targeted.
2 men dead, 1 in hospital seriously hurt, a community asking questions.
What's these killings for? To see, like, it's not right to see my friend on the ground bleeding like that. You know what I mean? Me, now I couldn't even sleep last night. You know what I mean? And this hurts.
Police were called to Emmett Avenue near Jane Street and Weston Road around 1:30 this morning. They found 2 men who had been shot. 1 died on scene, the other in hospital. This witness, who lives on the 14th floor of the neighboring building, says he saw and heard about 7 shots.
He was shooting, the guy fell down screaming, and he kept shooting in the back.
One of the men who died was in a wheelchair.
And he's so friendly that, you know, he talked to everybody.
A 3rd man took himself to hospital after the shooting. He's expected to survive. Police Chief Mark Saunders says 1, if not all 3 men were targeted.
The 3 people that were shot were in the front area, just socializing, and then out of nowhere the suspect came out and opened fire.
The shooting happened here at this building just out front of these glass doors. Police say the suspect then took off and ran this way, and witnesses we spoke with say they saw a man running through this park, and that's left people who live in the area upset and scared.
Couldn't sleep all night. Yeah, tell me. Next month moving from here, 100%. Done.
Well, it's not the first time. We had somebody killed in our building. So it's a bit nerve-wracking, and especially when you live alone. It's happening all over the city. Are you safe anywhere today?
Mayor John Tory says you're safe in Toronto, calling it one of the safest cities in the world.
These acts are tragic, they're unacceptable. The police are working hard to track down those who are responsible, but they represent a tiny minority in a small number of areas.
The suspect is described as being black, 6 feet tall with a muscular build and baby dreads or short dreadlocks about 3 to 4 inches. Police haven't found any weapons and say the suspect is armed and dangerous. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
We have an update to a story we brought you earlier this week about a teenage girl who was the victim of an alleged armed sexual assault in Aurora. Police have released surveillance video of the suspect.
Somebody's going to know this person. Somebody's watching and seeing those photos or the video, and they know exactly who it is. So that person, we need them to come forward and call our officers and identify that person. And same with that individual himself. Again, it's a matter of time, and I would suggest that he speaks to a lawyer and turns himself in.
Police released 3 videos showing the suspect. He is described as having light brown skin and a thin build. In one video, the suspect is shown following a different woman. Police believe the man approached her as well, and they are asking to speak with that woman. The 14-year-old girl was walking on a popular trail on Monday around noon when police say the man, who was carrying a gun, approached her and allegedly sexually assaulted her. The girl was treated in hospital. A man has been charged with impaired driving after a multi-vehicle crash in Mississauga last night. 6 people were injured, including a 12-year-old boy. Emergency crews were called to Highway 401 east of Dixie at around 2 a.m. A tractor-trailer had jackknifed in the westbound express lanes, smashing into the concrete median. The boy was rushed to Sick Kids in life-threatening condition. 5 others were also treated in hospital. A group of Americans crossed the border into Canada today. Their goal, to raise awareness of what they call a crisis in the U.S. It has to do with the life-saving drug insulin, which costs 10 times more in the U.S. than in Canada. Lorenda Redekop has that story.
A journey of almost 1,400 kilometers for this life-saving medication. Allison Nimlos is from Minneapolis.
We drove just a few hours, it went from $300 to $30. It is the exact same drug.
She held off on getting her glucose monitor until she could afford it.
We really need our politicians to recognize what a crisis this is and that people are losing their lives.
Around a dozen people bought insulin for about 1/10 of the cost back home. Even if they have insurance, they still pay more.
You can see why 1 in 4 Americans are rationing their insulin because they can't afford it.
Nicole Smith Holt's son Alec died 2 years ago. He tried to ration his insulin. He couldn't afford the $1,300, so tried to wait for his next paycheck.
I would have crawled, swam, walked if I had to buy this insulin for my son, but I didn't know at that time that I would not be stopped at the border for purchasing insulin in Canada.
They came here to London, Ontario, the birthplace of insulin. And there's an extra significance to Frederick Banting's discovery.
Profiting from medicine wasn't in their DNA, so to speak. And so Banting's alleged to have said, insulin belongs to the world, not to me. And the team sold it to the University of Toronto for $1.
But could this affect supply for Canadians? Health Canada says it's monitoring the situation and will ensure that Canadians have uninterrupted access to the medications they need. Some Canadians with diabetes are also here. Sophia Ashamsi emigrated from Morocco, where it was free. Here, before she got insurance, it was $300 a month.
I paid out of pocket the moment I arrived to Canada. I was not on a pump. We're talking just insulin, like pens and testing strips.
They hope prices will change in the U.S., but they're aware they may be making the cross-border trip again in the near future. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, London, Ontario.
Oh, Canada, Nikinani Taskinan, Kisaki Hetinan, Otaka Wikiak, Nitehinak Kiwapamtinan, Soke Kiwetinuk. Ota, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
A historic first at the Rogers Centre today as 13-year-old Kaya Bruno belts out the national anthem in both Cree and English. Just one of the few ways the Blue Jays honored Indigenous culture today. Our Kelda Yoon is live outside the Rogers Centre for us tonight. So Kelda, a special way to kick off today's game.
Right, a very special, and as you mentioned, Maribel, historic as well. And the game started at 4 here at the Rogers Centre. It's the Blue Jays versus the Kansas City Royals. And not only was the national anthem sung in Cree, but a young girl from Attawapiskat First Nation, she threw out the first pitch, all while First Nations members from across the country looked on. So a very special day here at the Jays game. Kaya Bruno, she is from Samson Cree Nation. That's about 100 kilometers south of Edmonton. As she got the opportunity to sing after her mom saw a casting call for Indigenous performers at the game, and then they sent in an audition tape. Bruno says she only learned to sing the national anthem in Cree a year ago, but since then she has sung it at several community events. She never imagined, though, that she would be here today singing it in a large stadium at a Jays game.
It's an honor to be here and representing that and just my culture and who I am. I'm happy that everything that I've done from a year ago has improved and has brought me here.
Kaya Bruno was not the only one to take center stage. Olivia Taquette, she's a 16-year-old from Attawapiskat. She threw the first pitch as she is part of the James Bay Girls at Bat program. Now, among those who watched her, chiefs and members of the First Nations in Fort Qu'Appelle, Saskatchewan, as well as Kenora, Ontario. Both places now have their own Indigenous Rookie League, and which the Jays Care Foundation helped to create. And all of them are actually in Toronto, not only to watch today's game, but for meetings in hopes of expanding the league to other Indigenous communities throughout the province.
In my communities in Saskatchewan, it has impacted multi-generations. So people, elders, youth especially, it has really changed lives.
Because it's not about winning, and it's not about, it's about bringing communities together, it's about bringing our kids together and celebrating the game.
We have talented individuals back home. We just need to give them the opportunity, and it's the Blue Jays Care Foundation that has allowed us, to explore the talent back home and to provide these opportunities of to play baseball, but again, to come together as a nation.
And they also all said that having this day at the game to celebrate Indigenous culture is very meaningful. Now, this is the third year in a row that the Jays have honored Indigenous people at the game. And for those who are wondering about the score, right now it is 5-4 Jays, but there's still a couple innings to go. I'll send it back to you, Maribel.
All right, quite inspiring. Thanks for that, Kilda. A beautiful day to catch that baseball game or to spend any time outside if you like the heat. Let's check in with Daksha Rangan for the forecast. It really is summer out there now, Daksha.
It truly is, Maribel. A beautiful day across the Golden Horseshoe, but you'll notice this is just a national overview. Here at the Weather Network, we are keeping an eye on active weather both in Western Canada, but also through the National Capital Region in through southern Quebec, where severe thunderstorm watches and warnings remain in effect. We also actually saw a tornado warning for parts of southeastern Ontario. That has since dropped off. You'll notice as we head into the overnight hours and into Sunday, things do quiet down. Okay, let's get to the Golden Horseshoe forecast for the GTA. Beautiful conditions this evening. If you are getting outside, lots of sunshine, warmth. You might have noticed it was a little bit sticky. We were talking about some higher humidex values. As we progress into Sunday, humidity will drop a touch. I do want to draw your attention, though, to some heat warnings. These are issued by Environment Canada right now in effect for southwestern Ontario, Windsor, Essex, Chatham, Kent, Leamington. Also, though, if you are planning on traveling this weekend, heading north, northwestern Ontario under some heat warnings as well. Now, I will be detailing for you coming up what we can expect for the Canada Day forecast, because there is the chance that we might get into some active weather for the city of Toronto. I'll have that coming up next.
Okay, we'll see you in a bit. Thanks, Daksha. The Rolling Stones are expected to rock the stage tonight. The band is performing in Oro-Medonte, 30 kilometers north of Barrie. It is the only Canadian stop in the band's tour. And our Yelena Adzik happens to be there too. So Yelena, what's the anticipation like right now out there?
Hey Maribel, yeah, no, it's a pretty big day. We've got the Beaches playing on the concert stage behind us, and we've got some fans here from Orillia, London, Ontario. Can you please tell me what it is, you've got the t-shirt, what it is that you so badly wanted to make sure you were here for today?
Well, I think they've been such an influence on so many Canadian bands that I had to be here for their last Canadian show.
Okay, last Canadian show, but we're not saying like last right?
Canadian show. Well, the Rolling Stones are a legend, right? They've blazed so many trails for other groups to follow, and we have to be here to be part of this. So we're really pleased to be here today to watch Mike.
Now, you've got a lot of great energy here. I'm going to ask you, what are you most looking forward to?
When they sing Give Me Shelter. It's my favorite song.
Yeah?
When that chick in her red dress starts rocking and rolling.
Yeah, you're going to have a good time.
Yeah, we're making history tonight.
All right, amazing. Everyone, I hope you have an amazing time tonight. Thank you so much for spending some time with us, and I wish you all the best tonight, all right? Okay, perfect. There you go. Okay, now, as I mentioned, it's not just about the Stones. Behind me right now, the Beaches are playing. This is an all-women band from the Beaches area of Toronto in the East End. And the thing about these different concerts is that they get a chance to really bring the Canadian feel because it is Canada Day weekend. So let me give you a quick sound up now from Sloan's Jay Ferguson.
You know, we've had the opportunity to play with the Rolling Stones before, and to be asked back again is lovely. It's just nice to be here for the occasion and to be part of it with some of the greatest artists of the past 100 years.
All right, so there you have it. That's Sloan, and we're going to be hearing from a couple of other bands before the Stones kick it off very, very shortly on the stage in Oro-Medonte in Ontario. Maribel, I'm tongue-tied because it's been a long day, and everyone here is really, really stoked.
He's really, really stoked. He's so stoked.
Well, it's the end of a journey for a shipment of Canadian trash. A cargo vessel finally brings the garbage back home after the Philippines rejected it. We'll have that story coming up. After a 6-year stay in the Philippines, hundreds of tons of Canadian garbage are back home. A ship carrying 69 containers of rotting trash docked in BC this morning. It took angry threats from the Philippine president to get Canada to repatriate the garbage, and now it has to be disposed of. The CBC's Tina Lovegreen has more.
Crews are busy unloading the 69 containers full of the Made in Canada trash here at the Delta Port Terminal. The cargo ship carrying 1,500 tons of the garbage docked here at around 7 a.m. It's been a long and troubled journey, one that started in 2013 after a Canadian company sent containers full of mixed waste to the Philippines, falsely labeling them as recyclable plastic, when it really was household waste, including dirty diapers. Since then, the infamous trash has been rotting in the Philippines. While the government complained loudly about the mess dumped on them, it took the nation's president threatening Canada and pulling diplomats home over the issue for action to be taken.
I'm really glad that Duterte had actually, stood on his word, and he was very firm with what he wanted. And that's exactly how he got it. Like, he stood firm, and now the garbage is back here as it should have been.
It's our responsibility, This is where it came from. This is where it should return. I don't have a problem with that.
Canada is spending $1.14 million for shipping costs and another $375,000 for the garbage to be burned, which will happen at a Burnaby waste facility 30 minutes from here. The containers will be shipped there tomorrow. Much of the material may actually be recyclable, but it will be incinerated out of fears of contamination. It will be torched, generating electricity enough to power 100 homes for a year. But even disposing of the trash won't get rid of the problem. A number of Asian countries are growing tired of being the dumping ground for the world's waste. The Philippines is considering an outright ban of foreign plastics. And in the last few weeks, Malaysia and Indonesia have expressed their desire to return shipments of trash back to Canada. Tina Lovegreen, CBC News, Delta.
Canada is leaving the G20 summit today without a breakthrough on China. Pressure was on the Prime Minister to smooth things over with the Chinese and secure the release of 2 Canadians detained in the country. But Justin Trudeau admits there is more work to be done.
We're going to continue to work on things that are going to help the Canadians detained, are going to help the relationship and the economic opportunities for Canadians in China.
The Prime Minister had no formal bilateral meeting with President Xi Jinping. However, they did hold one-on-one discussions on the side. Trudeau called that an important opportunity and key to moving things forward. Well, with the G20 over, U.S. President Donald Trump is now in South Korea. He's there for a 2-day visit with President Moon Jae-in. They're expected to discuss the nuclear threat posed by North Korea. Trump has invited Kim Jong-un to shake hands with him during a brief visit to the heavily fortified demilitarized zone.
Tomorrow we're going to the DMZ. I said, while I'm there, I'll shake his hand. We get along. There's been no nuclear tests. There's been no long-range ballistic tests, gave us back our hostages, which was great, and a lot of good things are happening over there.
The North Korean leader has described the invitation as interesting. So far, that is his only response. For all the space junkies out there, a chance to relive an iconic moment in space exploration. NASA has restored the original control room that helped launch America's early astronauts into space. We'll take you there after the break. This summer marks 50 years since the Apollo 11 mission that saw men land on the moon. And ahead of that anniversary, NASA has restored the mission's control room in Houston. CBC's Eli Glasner has the story.
This is the Johnson Space Center. It is a working space center with mission controls right now that are communicating with the International Space Station. But for years, the original Mission Control Center, responsible for those historic Apollo flights, sat neglected until now.
Okay, all flight controllers, gonna go for landing. Retro, go, right up, go, right, go, control, go, go.
This is the result, the newly restored Mission Control Center, where visitors can stand or sit in the viewing lounge and watch a series of highlights recreating some of the most dramatic moments of the 1969 moon mission.
I just can't tell you how proud we all are of what you have done.
And it's all about the details, so remember, it was 1969. This isn't for your phone. This is, of course, an ashtray. These were 3D printed just so you can have the same experience sitting in the chair, of course, without the smoke hanging in the air.
3, 2, 1, liftoff.
Relaunch of Mission Control. Many of the original Apollo controllers returned, including Gene Kranz, the flight director who was working when the Eagle landed and Neil Armstrong took those first steps. He talked to CBC News about the emotion at seeing Mission Control come back to life.
This is a place where history was made. The books were written. The challenges were issued. They were controlled. We moved forward. The accepted risk is the price of progress. And at times we went too far too fast. We lost a crew, but we picked the ball up and continued to run forward even stronger.
But as much as NASA is focused on preserving its history, it's also very much looking forward into the future, talking about plans already underway for a new mission to the moon, a giant leap featuring the first step by a woman on the lunar surface in 2024. Eli Glasser, CBC News, Houston.
All right, let's check in with Daksha again for the all-important Canada Day forecast.
Well, Maribel, beautiful conditions is what we're seeing this evening. Not quite the same story for the National Capital Region, where we're continuing to watch severe thunderstorm watches and warnings, But as we head into Sunday, you might have noticed a bit sticky for us on Saturday. Humidex values to drop just a touch, so Sunday might feel a little bit comfortable for those of you who might be a little bit vulnerable to the heat. Temperatures quite the same. You'll notice Toronto warming up to a daytime high of 24, but feeling closer to 26. Okay, what can we expect as we head a little bit farther forward into Canada Day? Well, you'll notice for the most part we are calling for another day of beautiful conditions, but you'll notice for Barrie we are expecting some showers, and actually there is a slight risk for some showers to reach the GTA Monday afternoon into the evening hours as a front slides on through. So we got lucky for much of the weekend seeing beautiful conditions, but you'll notice this is just a snapshot Sunday night as we move forward into the overnight hours and into Monday. This is the front draped over stateside that we're going to be keeping an eye on. In terms of a thunderstorm risk, not much to take note of right now, but you will notice those showers right around the hours where we might be getting ready for fireworks. Now, in terms of showers, we're expecting them to be light in nature, really keeping an eye on far southwestern Ontario. That's where we've got the higher chance for the showers to arrive. But again, if you are heading outside for Canada Day, that is just something to keep an eye on. We'll also be monitoring the risk for some non-severe thunderstorms.
All right, thanks, Daksha.
You're welcome.
Woodbine Racetrack hosted the 160th running of the Queen's Plate today.
One bad boy never looked better and has got the Queen's Plate well and truly won. One bad boy. 3 lengths.
The big winner, One Bad Boy. The Queen's Plate is Canada's oldest thoroughbred horse race. It was founded in 1860. And that's our show for you tonight. Thank you for watching. Have a great night, everyone. You can stay caught up on news anytime on our website, cbcnews.ca.